It's no secret that using case studies as a builder is the quickest way to build certainty in the minds of prospective clients. This allows you to build trust, inspire, and have more chance of getting the projects that you love. The problem a lot of builders face is they don't know if their clients are willing to help, but yet they don't know how to ask their clients. In this episode, Corne and Andre talk about how to ask your clients so that you can tap into the power of using case study stories.
So we get a lot of builders, when they finish a project, they want to capture it somehow because, they've been on this project for 3, 6, 12 months. And they just want to be able to remember it somehow. And then we get other builders, they want to do a case study because they want to advertise their business doing it. But I think a big problem that stops a lot of builders is they don't know how to ask the clients because they feel like they're kind of intruding.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, a lot of times when builders come on board with us and we'll do several case studies, the first question that comes back to us is, what's the best way of approaching a client?
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes people feel like they've just done this big service for this client. Now they've moved in. They don't want to be intruding into their lives.
Yeah. And they feel like the client's paid them money and then therefore the value transaction is finished. So to ask them now for a case study, it's asking something extra. So I think I'd love to explore that in today's podcast. But I guess before we go any further, why, as a builder, I think the question is, why should you even look at doing case studies?
Yeah.
Why should you invest the money and the time? Yeah. And also, why should you be asking clients? It's not just a quick and easy thing.
Yeah.
So there's got to be some reason why. Why do you think
that's it?
Most builders do
it comes down to human psychology in how we follow similar others. It's like instant validation.
Yeah.
So when we're making a purchase decision as humans, we kind of look to similar others, whether it's family, friends, peers, people around you that play an influence on you, and it's kind of looking at their example, and that's why case study is such a powerful thing, because it's a builder showing what they've done for a client. The client talks about it, and similar others then go, "Well, that's me. I can relate to that type of person. That's who I am. That's what I want."
And I think it also depends on the size of the purchase, right? If it's a $3 can of Coke or $2 or whatever, you don't need that much validation. I mean, because you could just buy it, try it. If you don't like it, I've lost $2, right? So it's not, there's not too much risk to it.
That's right.
But if I select someone to renovate my home or build a new home, that certainty level needs to go as high as possible. So I think that's probably why a lot of builders invest in case studies.
100%.
But I guess a good example is like Adelaide. So I mean, next week we're going to Adelaide.
Yeah.
It's a business trip, but we're going to be doing some other things along the side, taking the wives with.
That's it. We're business trip, but taking the wives with, and it's funny. Actually, a funny story. As we were sort of going, we want to kind of book the whole week out, because we're going to have some of the guys in the team there as well. And it's kind of like booking restaurants and having everything planned out so that as much as it's work, we can still enjoy the time down there.
And not have to figure something out there.
100%, because that's one of the biggest things on trips like that. You're like, where do I go? Where do I eat? And so what we've done is with restaurants and places to stay, we've kind of try and make it easy, number one. And number two is kind of get a nice spot. And so with restaurants, a lot of times when we're booking it and Airbnbs and so on, is looking at the reviews. So it's kind of like looking at Google reviews or what have people said about it. And most times, when I'm comparing, if I'm going through it, just thinking from my side, sometimes you'll see someone with 6 reviews, and they'll be 4 to 5 stars out of 5. And then there's people with 300 reviews, 4 to 5 stars.
Yeah.
And straight away, I'm my mind straight away goes to the one with the more reviews, because you're just man, look at this.
So why do they have more reviews though?
Well,
I think there's probably 2 reasons that come up in my mind. One is they probably ask their customers.
Yeah.
But probably the most important one is they deliver a really good product and a really good experience.
Exactly.
So then people want to review it.
That's it.
It's that law of reciprocity.
I think that's it. That's 100%. And that's kind of where, comes back to the builder side of things is having those reviews, but it's kind of in case studies and it's in story form that will emotionally connect.
Yeah, because I just don't think a Google review makes the cut for a job that size.
That's right.
I mean, someone can...
For a restaurant, it's all right.
Yeah.
But for
builders, I mean, there's a lot going on here. People are investing X amount of money, anywhere from a couple of thousand to a couple of $1 million. So that purchase decision you can't just rely on a few words on Google. You need something deeper than that. So I think that's probably why case studies are so popular amongst our builders.
That's right.
And why they love doing it.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, coming back to the question of, how builders sometimes go, well, how do I approach it? How do I ask my client that I've just built for the last year and I've built this dream home for them? How do I actually approach him? But I think before you kind of go into that question, it's going like, you got to step back for a moment and go, well, wait, before we ask that, the question we got to ask is like, who do we ask?
Yeah.
What client? Because you might have built for a few clients in that year. How would you explain, Corne? Like, how would you sort of dissect that?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of builders, they'll call me up, for example, like a client will call me up and say, "Oh, I've got this project coming up. I want to do like a case study on the project." And then the first thing I say to them is like, "Well, is that your ideal client? Like, do they represent that ideal client in some way? If it's someone that's just completely different to your normal target market, you want to just relook at the whole thing. Like, why are we doing this video? Is it to showcase the project? But if it's that ideal type of client, then yeah, you want to focus on the person.
That's right.
The project is definitely very important.
Yeah.
But it's more so like how it fits in with the client. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, because I think it's kind of like, when you're looking at that situation, it's kind of going, what's the hero in the story? And sometimes it will be the project. It's like your dream project, and this is the biggest project you've done. But then sometimes it's not the project. You're like, man, this project is not anywhere what I want to put out there.
Is it like a style of build or something?
Might be the style of build, and it might not be exactly the size that you want to put out there, because you might be aiming for like your $800,000 or your $1 million new homes, for example. But now you've done like a 400,000, for example.
Yeah. And vice versa as well. Because I mean, we've got a lot of clients that have gone up like a higher in budget, and they said like they found themselves like their business suited better that mid-range.
That's it.
So it's almost like if you do get that luxury project and go like, well, am I going to get more of them? Do I want to get more of them? What do I need to show? Or do I just focus on that mid-range and tell that story?
That's it. And every build is different. That's the cool thing, is like, doesn't mean because you're building $1 million place or homes, that's going to be the best thing. Best thing could be 100 or 200 grand or 300 grand. It depends on your business model. But coming back to that thing of going, okay, cool. When I'm selecting what client to do this on, yes, if the project's not that amazing, but you go, you know what, the people that I work with, they were just like such nice people to work with. I really enjoyed working with them. But also they were like the type of people that you want to get in the future. Then it's a go, well, that's where the hero lies in the story. We don't necessarily have to do the case study so much on the project, but it's on the experience in that story from that client.
And I mean, you still do show the project, the finished project, and, maybe a little bit of the build, but I think there's too much emphasis on the build amongst builders. So a lot of our clients will say, oh, I need to build, there's this part of the build that I want to capture, show how busy it is and all that kind of stuff, which I think it's good to show to some degree. But I think at the end of the day, the client story is the most important. Secondly is the finished project, because that's where they're going to live. They're not going to be living in a building site.
Yep.
So showing the building site, we've got to ask, like, why do we show that? But that's probably a podcast for another day. Just getting back to what kind of clients you ask. I think it's definitely someone where you felt like you've solved the problem for them. That their lives are better off because of you and what you were able to help them with.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That's right.
Yeah. So it's looking at those clients and go, did they have some sort of desire before they came to us? And then was there a problem that stopped that desire? So it might be the family is growing. Their desire is a nice family home. They don't want to move, so they wanted to renovate their home. So now we're sitting with a problem. Now there's an extra kid or two kids. Now there's not enough space. So that's a problem. And that causes a lot of other problems as well. If you go and ask your clients why, like the 5 whys, then you'll get to the root problems. Like, oh, now it's like, people, they're all yelling at each other and all that kind of stuff. So if you can come in as a builder and extend their home and fix that problem of it being too small, it actually solves a lot of other problems. And I think those case studies are the most powerful, because these people, you've genuinely helped them with their life.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I think there's a lot of power in that, rather than just showing the project. We see a lot of other builders that we don't help, but all they put out is product.
That's right.
And it's like Apple or any really good company. If they just show the product the whole time, people won't care. It's the stories they buy into.
So on that topic, how do people make buying decisions, and like what makes them do something?
Wow, I mean, that's a deep topic. But I think like just to stay on track with this particular podcast, is one reason is because, again, what you said before, people don't like to take big risk. So they'll look at others that have done it before and see, if they were able to get what they want, like may it be a renovation or an extension or a new home from this builder. So you want that validation, and that's priceless. I mean, you can invest a large sum of money into doing a case study, and it will just always give you a return, because it's always going to be there. Yep. You help those clients. It's a moment in time that you've captured it well. And it's this video that just keeps giving back. So I think.
So what would you say to a builder that's maybe like they've booked their pipeline for like the next 2 years, and they just keep getting people, like referring people through, and it's just everything's looking great, like everything's just going. Yeah. What would you say to a builder? Why would someone like that still need or require case studies to validate?
Yeah.
Because I know that's one thing, is like you might be booked out and everything, and you've got all this pipeline ahead, and you've always got clients just coming in. But from our experience, what we found is when you've got that, but you've got case studies, and these clients have already booked with you, they might have already booked with you, signed with you, started to build. But when they watch these similar other stories, it gives them even more confidence on that journey.
Yeah.
And it allows them to even trust you even more.
Yeah.
Because one of the big problems is a client, they're spending $1 million or $500,000 or whatever, is being able to trust, like you said before, trust the other side. And the more you can increase that trust over time, the better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not just about getting more projects. I think you're 100% right. It's the whole, I mean, obviously we have a lot of lunches and dinners with some of our builders, and one pet peeve that they just hate is when clients walk on site unannounced. But you've got to ask the question, like, why do they do that? Why do they want to come on site? It's because they want to make sure that everything is in line with what they want at the end of the day. They want to make sure that the project's progressing, and what that means is there's a level of distrust. So that's kind of like what you're saying, right? So case studies will, I mean, hopefully help that, because if the person goes, okay, well, if the client you're building for watches one of your case studies, and the case study shows, what the builder has done, surely that should, make the client more at ease, right? At the end of the day, like, how do you ask a client? Like, say I'm a builder, like, how should I ask my client?
Biggest thing is to look at the people that you've built for in the last couple of years and go, who's maybe said thanks to you, whether it's been through like a gift or like a review, whether it's Facebook or Google or Instagram or whatever, or maybe just another way where they said over the phone, they're like, thank you so much, John, for building and creating this dream home for us. But then sometimes you might not have that client. You might have a client in mind. You're like, man, this client would be fantastic for a case study. They just fit the picture. But they haven't really they've said thanks, but they haven't been like overboard about it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times builders be like, yeah, but I don't want to ask them because they weren't out of their shoes about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can come back to their personality. It can come back to them as a person. Maybe they're like so thankful inside, but they don't know how to express it to you as the builder. And what we found in the past is every time we have a situation like that and the builder goes and asks the client, they'll come back, yeah, no worries. I want to do this. This is awesome. Yeah, I'd love to be a part of it.
And then it turns out like such a good story as well.
100%.
Yeah.
There's been, honestly, out of 100%, there's been 2% that maybe you'll have that 2% that says no. And the only reason why is whether they're very, very private people or they are people that can't be out there for, for business or public or whatever reasons. And so it always seems to work out. And then you ask yourself the question, but why? Why would they say yes to you when they've already paid you all that money? The big thing is you've just like built their dream family home. And
or their little renovation or whatever.
100%. Yeah. Let's not forget about the whole spectrum. You've just done that big job for them. And for them, as human beings, when someone does something for you, it's out of our own, it's just how we are, that we want to give something back, reciprocity. And sometimes, that's through the money exchange that happens. But sometimes it's just like they want to be able to pay you back in a way, but they don't know how. And when you ask them this question, hey, when we booked these case studies with Biz Video, we thought about you first off because we're like, man, we'd love to tell a story on this whole relationship that we've had. And we thought about you. From that, the client feels very special too because they feel like they're one of the special clients. So you're able to then obviously ask them, and most times people are like, man, I would love to help out.
Yeah.
When, where, how?
Yeah.
And then that's obviously when we come in.
Yeah, and I think if we ask a builder that's never worked with us before, what percentage of clients do you think will say yes and no? I bet you they'll say, probably 20% of clients will say yes. The rest won't. But yeah, we found that like more than the other way around. Like you said, like 2 out of 100 would say no. Like very rarely. I mean, I can't even remember those ones that said yes. I mean, sorry, that said no. Yeah. And I think that's a big thing.
The other thing, just sorry, Corne, to interrupt there, but the other thing that we found is just when clients go on this journey and a story is told on that relationship from their perspective, they love it because there's another sort of memory that they create in this story of this journey they had building their dream home or building their dream renovation. And it's something that they can keep and show the kids and show the family. And it's just another talking point.
Yeah, 100%. I think, at the end of the day, they're going to get a download link as well. So if you're a client listening to this, you could tell them like, look, I'm going to give you a download link of this video. It's almost like a little memory in your, part of your story in a way.
That's it.
Yeah. And I get what you're saying when it comes to, sometimes it's the same with us. Like sometimes, we help clients out and, we create amazing stories for them and stuff. And then we almost don't get the kind of, the wow. Like a lot of our clients like cry when they first watch their stories, especially the case studies and stuff. And I think a big reason for that is because they put so much work into this business and also the project. And most of the time people don't, what do you call it? Like, they don't thank them enough. You know, they don't feel like, what's the word?
So are you saying like from a builder's perspective?
Yeah.
When they build for a client, it feels like sometimes the client doesn't thank them enough for all the
they're not
hard work.
Grateful enough. Or, so sometimes they just want to be seen as well and go, oh man, like what a great job. So I guess where I'm going with this is like sometimes we've had clients like that as well for us, where we're like, oh man, we don't know if the client was, super happy with what we did and all that kind of stuff. And then somehow we do a case study on them or an interview.
Or we hear behind the back, or even sometimes later, that they've mentioned something to someone saying, oh, it was this amazing.
And it was like, then it turns out like the best case study ever. It's weird how it works. It's almost like they bottle it up, and then when they're in front of the camera and, the type of questioning that happens, it just creates an even better story. Yeah. So it's almost like you want to have a look at the clients that are like thankful and all that. That'll be a great story. But also the ones that you're not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Because that might surprise you. That might be the best case study you'll ever find.
Because remember, in their minds, they might be thinking that everyone else is thanking the builder. The builder knows what a great job they always do. And
they just
have
assume.
Done. They assume.
Yeah.
So this kind of like gives them the opportunity to talk and to hear their side and their story and their whole experience.
Yeah.
But with that, a lot of times clients will be like, they're creating a case study they're like, oh, I've got 10 clients in mind, but I don't know who to do. And
Oh, yeah.
they think it's only going to be creating one case study. Whereas like, if you really look at it, businesses that have a lot of validation, that have a lot of different people talking about it, it's just, the percentage of success is a lot higher. Why would you say so? Why would you say, Corne, is it important?
I mean, I guess, again, from a human psychological point of view, you want to make sure that it's not just one client that this builder helped. Like they've helped multiple clients. I think that's definitely a thing. Like the numbers do speak a lot. You know, that's why we do so many case studies with a lot of our clients, because, you know, it helps our business a lot. So, but then there's another dimension to this whole thing. When you do case studies, you want to obviously you want to focus on your core target market, but then within that core target market, you want to focus on like different personalities and also different problems that you solved, because that will, those different stories will all speak differently to different people. Okay, so for example, let's say, for example, your target market is like professionals, for example, or let's say people that own their own businesses. Okay, I mean, we can go into this whole niching and target market thing in another podcast, and we have, you can click the link above or whatever, where we speak a little bit about that. But let's say you help business people. On the one hand, you might have a business person that is just like a bachelor, you know, they're not married, no kids, nothing. And then on the other side, you've got a business person that's, you know, married, they've got a couple of kids. It looks completely different. If you create stories on both of those, the story with the most impact is whoever's watching that story. There's not going to be a better story. It's going to be the one with the family, other clients or prospective clients, with business person married with kids is going to resonate better with the one business person married with kids.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's why you want to cover a lot of different case studies based on your target market, their personalities, what their desire is, and what problems you solve for them.
Yeah. Because it's kind of like last week when I was booking the next week's trip to Adelaide, it was kind of looking at, you know, the Airbnbs, the locations we're going to stay, but the restaurants is also going, I think another factor that's kind of similar to that was looking at the reviews and how lately have the reviews been done. Because there's been places that I've seen there's a lot of reviews, but it's 2 years ago was the last one.
Really?
Whereas like, you know, you look at the places that was like a week ago, because who knows, that business might have changed owners in between. So it's also like, I know it's sort of a little bit different to what you've mentioned there, Corne, but it kind of does go in hand in how regularly you kind of focus on it. But just to get back to your point there, I remember back in the day, and you would have remembered this, was, you know, early days of this video is like when we were looking at like a accounting software and we were looking at different softwares. Now you can imagine accounting and softwares like that, they speak numbers, they don't talk layman's terms. And one thing we found with Xero was, and this is not an ad of any sort, was that they kind of broke it up into different industries. So they kind of had like your financial sector, your legal sector, and they had like your creative. At that point, we kind of saw ourselves as creative marketing people. And I remember like when I was sitting there and we clicked on it and we kind of went in that route. And they had photos of people like us that looked like us, that talked our language, that had our desire, but our problems too. And it kind of just...
And there were a couple of case studies.
Yeah.
Because I remember they did this really well. I mean, the great thing with builders is they don't have to cover all these different target markets. So builders are quite lucky in this respect. But when it came to Xero, I mean, this software is, you know, a lot of different industries can use it. And I remember there were like hospitality, creative, professional, like all these different kind of like verticals of different industries. And then within each vertical, they had multiple case studies within that as well. And we watched every single creative one, I remember. And the other ones I didn't really like. I didn't even watch the hospitality ones. You know, I might have watched one of the other ones. I didn't really relate to it too much. So if they only had that case study on there, we probably would have looked around a little bit more, and the decision-making process would have been longer.
10 years later, and we're still using Xero,
Yeah,
or 11 years or whatever now it is. and
Yeah.
that shows you.
Yeah, and but I think a big point here is when you create case studies, you actually help the decision making of your prospective clients. And I'm not saying you're going to get more clients necessarily. Some of those case studies are there to disqualify people as well.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Because why would you want to do that? Like, why would you want to disqualify some people?
Yeah, I guess time wasters is a big topic with a lot of builders. They don't like time wasters. I mean, it's not just wasting time, but it's wasting a lot of resources, wasting a lot of money, especially when you've got to go quote, if you're doing free quotes and all that kind of stuff. I know a lot of builders are moving more towards paid quotes, but it's sucking up a lot of your resources. And what that means is it's cost of lost opportunity. So, while you're busy with a time waster here, you could have been spending like working on the business or getting a prospect that's not a time waster where you can actually help them. So a case study, I believe, should be made in such a way it doesn't just say how amazing the builder is the whole time. That's the problem with testimonial videos, and that's why we call it case studies. Because if you go have a look around, like I look at some builders that, like, let's say, for example, we didn't do their videos and so on. And when you go watch a client story that they present, it's normally in the form of a testimonial video. Oh yeah, ABC company was so amazing. They built a house, and we can't thank them enough. They were on time. They built quality. It's amazing. So it's always just all the positive stuff about that builder.
It's good, but it just doesn't connect.
Yeah.
I think it does kind of does a job, which is awesome. But like you say, that it doesn't.
I think it's better than nothing, but then I think there is a downside to it as well, because it doesn't help people. It doesn't help disqualify people. I think that's a big thing. I think businesses should look more. It's not just about just gaining awareness for your business and getting everyone to desire what you have.
So it's being like real and vulnerable, are you saying? Or what do you mean by that?
Kind of. So like these case studies should be, you should be pretty certain about your particular target market as a builder, which then leads you to what type of case studies you create, which means then if someone watches a case study and they go, oh man, that's not me. Like, that's not, I'm in like a little unit and I want that renovated, but then this builder is just doing architectural massive luxury homes, they should disqualify themselves. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas most testimonials, it's just about the builder and how good they were.
Yeah.
And maybe a little bit of the project.
So what would you say to people that are out there listening to this and they are, they're considering of how do they take this step? Maybe they're at a point where, they've got it in the distance to create stories in their business, but what's something they can take away from today that they can implement that will get them kind of rolling on that momentum going forward in regards to case studies? And
well, I think the thing is maybe just go write down the last 10 projects that you did, for example, and then look at that. And from a business, you've got a lot of factors that you've got to look at here, but like what type of projects did you love? Like which ones make most business sense? What clients did you love out of that? Which ones do you want more of? All that kind of stuff. And then look at like, okay, cool. What are the top 3? If you only have enough, cash to invest in one case study at the moment, that's better than nothing. If you have enough to, invest in 3 or 5, then do that, because, it's kind of like, that's going to be there forever. I know it's a video, it's something digital, but it's a real asset, because that asset will build certainty in the future with future prospects. It'll qualify the right people and disqualify the wrong people and all that kind of stuff. So it's building equity in your business in a way. Yeah.
Brand equity.
Yeah.
All the different equities.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now, just I guess to sum it all up, and we're getting near the end of the podcast, what would you say in the end? Getting back to that question of how do builders approach clients?
Yeah. Well, I think, making your list and all that kind of stuff first, because then you'll identify which clients, like the ones you actually want to ask, and, just have that conversation with them. Look, I'm getting Biz Video to help us out with these case studies. It's where we tell the story of, how we've been able to help you build your home, renovate, whatever. And we'd love for you to be part of that. Is that something you would, mind helping with? It's as easy as that.
That's it.
And then they say yes, hopefully.
Yeah,
And if they say no, then, well, you look at some of the other clients.
that's right.
Yeah.
And that's something that you can also just, as you build with clients, just drop the seed.
Yeah.
I'd love to do a story with you guys one day. And truly, like when the client of our builders, when their clients go through this journey with us and the whole experience, it's they love it. It just gets everyone together. And I think, if we can make the whole process fun at the same time, it's awesome.
Yeah, and then there's obviously a lot of things around the video production side of things. I mean, the way we do things is obviously very minimal. Doesn't feel like a Hollywood set. Doesn't take too much time. I mean, we've honed this thing in our business, like we've honed in the whole process, and the whole team knows, like, hey, look, we've got to be very respectful of these people and their time. They're giving us, and the client, they're giving the client they're doing them a massive favor. So, at Biz Video here, we obviously, go in with very light equipment. What that means is like very minimal. It's all about the story and all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't, and that's something you've got to like prep the client with, I think, as well. By the way, it's an easy process for you. The video production crew, they're very minimal. They're just going to ask you some questions. They're going to just direct you a little bit and all that kind of stuff. There's nothing for you to worry about. So you have to make them feel at ease there.
100%.
Is there anything else that you would add there from a production point of view?
I think the big thing is that it's not, people have this perception of having to act and having to say something perfect. And I think that kind of puts them back and go, and the way we overcome that is going, look, number one, we're just going to have a conversation.
Yeah.
A conversation like this. And then from that, the editors do the magic. They just pull out the golden nuggets and form the whole story. But then from the visual perspective, we just do whatever the family normally does. If they love, chilling in the backyard and running around, and the kids run around with the dog and everything, we just do that. We capture that. And the whole idea is not to stage something and make something fake, but make something real, make something that other families will admire and go, that's what I want as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and I think it's important to show those lifestyle parts of the case study as well, like what you said there. People that value what your clients value. And that's why it's important to choose your clients, right? Because we've definitely had builders in the past where they do a particular project. It's completely different to all the other projects, but for some reason they are very excited about this project. So they want to do a case study on that without asking the question like, is this my core target market? Is this what I want to pursue? If it is, then go for it. If it's not, just, think about it.
Yeah. No, I do.
And maybe ask us what we think. Yeah,
that's right.
Because we've done this a few times.
Yeah.
But the one thing you want to look at, especially if you're a builder, I mean, again, you're not just selling a $30 product. You're selling something massive here. You need to build a lot of certainty, a lot of trust with your target market. So you have to look at and invest in case studies. Thanks for joining us today. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe via your favorite podcasting app, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel for future videos. See you later.